Hi, ladies. I am so excited. You are going to love another amazing woman, a part of the Just Own You Summit. Today we have Shonda. She is the author, therapist, mother, oh my goodness, founder of Breathe Mama Breathe, which just reading the title of that book makes me want to breathe. So I loved that title when I came across it. She is the Woman Mindful Empowerment Mentor. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry. She's going to teach us and really dives deep into development on women of overcoming mom guilt, how to really hone in, be mindful in your life, and not just in motherhood, but in yourself and all these various components that I would say 99% of women deal with. So she covers it all. She is the mother of two, and her husband, they live out in Pennsylvania. And I'm just thrilled that she's a part of this. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you.
Yes. So let's dive in a little bit because I gave you a short snippet of a background there. How did you get into this work and how did you become so passionate about it?
Right. So I've been a therapist, a psychotherapist in private practice for almost 25 years. And so I have that background. And a number of years ago, I want to say maybe 15 years ago, I came across mindfulness. And it wasn't a very popular buzzword at that time, but through yoga practice, maybe it was 15, 20 years ago now. And I started learning more about mindfulness and took an 8-week course and really started meditating on a daily basis for a half an hour. And I also so what I found with it was that immediately I had more patience with my kids, in my life. I just was enjoying things more because I'm definitely still, I might call myself a recovering type A. I like to get things done. And so I was like, don't tell me to slow down. No, I don't want to slow down. But what I realized is that by slowing down just a notch, I was actually able to be more efficient and more productive. And I enjoyed things in my life more. So I was hooked right away, started incorporating mindfulness into my therapy practice and then teaching it as well. So to kind of give a little backstory, right now I have two kids who are 19. My daughter's 19 and my son is 9. And like I said, my daughter was maybe 3 when I dove into mindfulness and meditation. And I had a devoted half an hour daily practice of meditation when my daughter was young. And I'm about to now fast forward, give birth to my son. My daughter's about to turn 10. And I know with a newborn, there's no way I'm going to be meditating for half an hour every day. So I wanted to keep mindfulness in my life in very practical, flexible ways. And that is where Breathe Mama Breathe came in, which is incorporating is what I call mindful breaks. 5 minutes in our day, 1 minute in our day, where we can drop in, be aware of what's happening in the moment, and that's where we find choice, which I'm sure we'll talk about, the benefits of mindfulness. So that's kind of my journey with mindful breaks, mindfulness, and Breathe Mama Breathe. And then as my son got older and into kindergarten, first grade, and I had a little bit more time to decide what I want to do with this time that opened up in my schedule, I started to think more about women's empowerment. And I kind of circled back around to a passion of mine that I had in my 20s. And my daughter is also very into social justice and women's rights. And it kind of reignited that for me. And I started to see so many women and moms especially who were holding themselves back for all kinds of reasons, feeling like we needed to be a certain way and, martyr ourselves and be these certain kind of mother, and we forgot about ourselves. And so how do we be the moms we want to be and be the women we want to be as well? And we kind of model that for our kids. So that's sort of my the abridged version of how I got to be where I am.
That is so beautiful. So through your journey of therapy, doing the yoga is where your first book, Breathe Mama Breathe, came from then.
Right.
Excellent, excellent. So that this will go into, because I want people to know, okay, as we get into, well, what is mindfulness? Because that can be confusing. Like, is yoga mindfulness? What is mindfulness? But before we get into what that is, I want you to tell us, well, what is mindful empowerment?
Right.
And why is that important? A lot of moms might be going, that sounds wonderful. What is that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it is helpful to define both terms and then bring them together. So mindfulness very simply is paying attention to what's happening in the moment with an attitude of kindness. So the opposite of being mindful is when we're running on automatic pilot. And we've all had that experience of getting in our car and driving somewhere familiar. And when we get there and we realize, oh my gosh, I don't even remember making a turn or passing a landmark because we're running on automatic pilot.
Mhm.
And our minds were not in that moment. They were in the future. We're worrying or what ifing or planning, or we were in the past, rehashing a recent conversation or a long ago memory. So mindfulness is the opposite of autopilot. It brings us back into the present moment. And that is where choice lies. I mean, awareness and then choice. Because when we're on autopilot, we're not choosing where we're headed. We're not choosing how we're reacting in situations. It's sort of life is just happening to us. And so mindfulness can help us not only calm ourselves, people think of that with mindfulness. So it's a tool to help us calm down if we're feeling stressed out. But the awareness piece is so key too, because then we can be intentional with where we want to head in our lives and the choices we make. So that's mindfulness. And I call it a superpower because it has so many benefits, and the research, bears this out now. Empowerment is about confidence and playing big in our lives and not holding ourselves back. And with that awareness, that's where they to me, just work so seamlessly together and support one another. Is I can be confident and I can be playing big and I can be living out what I think is success. But if I'm not stopping first to be insightful and think about, is this really where I want to be going? Is this really how I want to be living my life? Are these really my values? Then we are just sort of throwing spaghetti at the wall, or we're heading in a direction of success that really may not be our own version of success, because your idea of success might not be mine. And that's great. I mean, that's awesome that we can all be unique in that way. So the combination, the marriage of the two is what I find to be so incredibly powerful. It's insight, awareness coming from a place of calm rather than fear, and then opening up, playing big, living out our own version of success.
I love that. Mindfulness, that's something we're all practicing as moms. And you brought up fear, because I think a lot of moms live in that fear mode and they have to change the way they're thinking about it. So, if you wouldn't mind sharing, you have a framework of how to get people into mindfulness, breathe, empowerment, achieve framework. And I think that would help us with the fear, the how do I stay present, or how do I be mindful and not fall asleep during that 5 minutes where I'm trying to be mindful, because moms get so tired. So teach us in that way a little bit more of the framework. Yeah.
Right. So the framework is about, first we lay this foundation. And I'm a huge proponent, again, of 5 minutes of meditation a day. And I believe we can all carve out somewhere in our day to learn to meditate, which is just getting quiet and, paying attention to our breath. And you can use a guided meditation. I always recommend we use a guided meditation to start. So building this mindfulness practice with meditation on a daily basis, because that daily habit of 5 minutes is much more crucial than sometimes we say, well, I'm going to meditate a half an hour, 20 minutes or something, and then we don't do it because it's too intimidating or we don't find the time. So every day for 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever you need to do, get into a daily habit that lays a foundation. Then the second step in the process is what I call breathe mindful breaks. And I mentioned mindful breaks before. Those are opportunities, reminders in the midst of our full day where we don't need to go off and find a quiet space to meditate, but we bring our attention back to the moment. So one of the most popular breathe mindful breaks is the coffee mindful break. And if you sign up on my my email list, I guide people through this, but it's very simply, instead of swigging back our coffee and not even knowing we had it at all in the morning, you pause for 20 seconds, 2 minutes, however long you want, and you notice the warm mug in your hand. You feel the texture. You bring it to your nose. You smell the aroma. You bring it to your lips. You notice the salivation and the anticipation and the taste and the warmth in your mouth, and then slowly swallowing that first sip. And how different that is to drink our cup of coffee that way than barely knowing we've done it at all because we're multitasking or we're stressed or whatever else is going on. So that's an example of a mindful break. And that, when we sprinkle our day with mindful breaks like that, I mentioned before about slowing the pace, it's just a notch, but it feels like we hop off that I talked about being on a hamster wheel of busyness or monotony, depending on how it feels in the season of our life. But it interrupts that hamster wheel. And so we come back and we're there for our lives. So that's an example of a breathe break, which are calming and help with awareness and insight. Then the second stage is empower breaks. Those help boost our confidence and courage. And one example of that is what I call an unmute yourself mindful break. And this is an example of how in different stages or parts of our life, and maybe it's at work, maybe it's in a relationship, we hold back. We don't say what we really need or what we're really thinking. We mute ourselves. And so where in your life can you speak up a little bit more and be assertive? You know, that's one example of a practice. So that's empower breaks. Then the achieve breaks are all about goal setting, being aware of what our deepest values are, and then what playing big looks like for each of us. So we can dream bigger, play bigger, break those goals and dreams down into the tiniest action steps and make it happen. And then the final stage is the upward spiral. So this is how I imagine that depending on our season of life or even the day, what's happening in our lives, we might need a breathe break to kind of calm down and center ourselves. Maybe I'm feeling like my life is pretty calm and I want to try something new. I need a little confidence boost, or I need a little bit of, I'm starting a new job or a new position. So I'm feeling imposter syndrome around that. I pull out some of those empower breaks and that helps boost my confidence and courage. Or maybe I'm feeling like, I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm ready for something bigger in my life. I'm ready for a little bit more to try to reach some goals. Then I pull out some of those achieve breaks. So I see it as throughout our lives, it's this upward spiral of using these 3 different breaks, depending on, because there are so many of each, depending on what's called for in that moment or in that season of life, in our circumstances. So it just kind of sets us off in that spiral of growth.
Yes. Now, when you're teaching this framework, of course, we need those mindful breaks every day and multiple times. I know that is something like as a mom, I don't always eat dinner with everybody else. I'm like shuffling around, and then my food might be cold by the time I get to it, reheat it, and then eat it and like throw it down. So that mindfulness practice there, but all the other practices is it depend upon the season of life you're in, or are you recommending like trying to hit one of those every day, or is it really dependent upon your goals?
Yes, yes to all. I think, mostly I would say it starts with, again, awareness. So what's called for today? And, what I don't want in my books. So in my first book, Breathe, Mama, Breathe, there are over 50 mindful breaks, or 60, and then 50 in the second book. So there are a whole number of them. And you can also design your own depending on, when you get more practice at this. People always ask, how do I get started? And I always say, start with that very brief meditation every day, and then start with one mindful break. So just choose one. What's kind of calling to me, and when you start to see more about what they are, you can say, like, maybe I wanted to start with my coffee already and see what that's like. You do that every day for a week or two. That becomes a habit. So it doesn't require much thought or much effort to do. It's just something I start to do. And then the next 2 weeks, you stack on another mindful break. And so before you know it, you've kind of created this habit or these rituals in your day. And then sometimes, depending on the season, you might say, I'm feeling I need a little bit more of this piece, empower piece, or achieve, or calm. So I shared with you, my daughter was recently hospitalized, and it was like really kind of, the world kind of came to a standstill, my work and everything. And so, I was definitely doing some of those breathe breaks. Now, things are stable again. We're back home. And so now it's like, okay, I'm ready to maybe do some achieve breaks, more goal setting and more playing big. So, right. We have to that's that flexibility that we all learn to hopefully learn as parents, because we don't really have a choice. We learn to be flexible when we have kids.
Absolutely.
That it's a fun framework. It's a structure, but it's very much unique, and you have to just pull out whatever it is that's useful for you in that moment.
Excellent. I have done meditation and done multiple summits, and everybody does meditation a little bit differently. But I like the fact that you're saying just do a habit of, short snippets every day to create that pattern of meditation. Now, the guided meditation, where would you recommend? I know you have some in your books and things like that. So, would you recommend the books, or where would they find for the mom that's like, okay, this sounds like something I should do. Where do I find or even begin with that practice?
Right, right. So if they want to sign up for my email list on my website, I send a 5-minute guided basic meditation and a guided coffee mindful break and a mindful log where they can track their progress of just to kind of keep themselves accountable. Some people really love that. Of course, there are a ton of apps. If you Google all kinds of guided meditations, there is so much out there. Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer. It's infinite, but really it is helpful to have a voice guiding you to get started, to just kind of, it's like training wheels, sort of bring you back. Otherwise, we can really get lost and then we feel frustrated. And I just want to say, along those lines, the biggest myth I encounter around meditation is people will say, I've tried it and I can't shut off my thoughts. I can't stop my mind from thinking. And that is not what meditation is. Meditation is actually familiarizing ourselves with our busy minds because we don't stop the thoughts. It's like, and they call it monkey mind. It's the monkey swinging from branch to branch to branch, like, oh, I'm thinking about that. Now I'm that. Now I'm thinking that and that and that. So it's awareness. But again, the more we recognize, wow, look at all of those thoughts I'm having, or what research shows is we only catch less than half of our thoughts. We only recognize less than half of our thoughts. But our thoughts are really powerful. If I'm having a thought, I'm such a bad mom. I can't believe I did that today. I can't believe I forgot that, or I can't believe I yelled at my child, or whatever that is. Yeah. We may not even catch that thought, but that gets in there. And now I'm feeling shame. And now I'm feeling terrible about myself. And then I'm cranky with my kid. It's so the more we can say, oh, look what's here, that's where the power lies.
I'd love to go in the direction you were taking with the mom shame, which is so common. We do this self beating her up, like, oh, I didn't do this today, or oh, I should have done this, very much in the sphere of mom guilt. And you talk a lot about that. If I'm correct, you just did a webinar on this.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was postponed as well. So, but by the time this airs, it may have already been, but you can probably find the recording of it. But go ahead. Yes.
So tell me about the mom guilt and how that gets in the way of being mindful and how to cope with it.
Yes. So first of all, women in general, we tend to be so self-critical. And I know this as a therapist, what I know from working with women for so long is that the women you see out there who look like they have it all together, they're also often very highly self-critical. And so we are so hard on ourselves, and we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to someone we cared about. Mm-hmm. So that's number one, is recognizing that. And then what we tend to do is be like, I can't believe, we judge ourselves for judging ourselves. You're such a jerk for being such a jerk to yourself, and on it goes. And so what we want to do, and this is where mindfulness comes in, is we just say, we name it. We say, name it to tame it. So, there's some judging. There's some judging. And then we can call it what it is. We don't need to be upset with ourselves for it, because we all do it to some degree. And then the next step is to place your hands on your heart and offer yourself a little bit of compassion. And I recommend this physical doing of this because it's a reminder, and it also releases a little bit of oxytocin, that compassion connection hormone. So that is that reminder of, I can still be kind to myself, and it doesn't mean I won't, correct something if it needs to change. The next piece is to really reframe the shame. So is this shame or is this guilt? So let's just say, an example I used of, I yelled at my toddler. I lost my temper and I yelled, and my toddler, got upset. I scared my toddler. That feels awful. That feels really awful. And I think we've all been there. So what we tend to do, I can't believe I did that. I scared her, whatever. And so that's where you can say, look what's here. I'm feeling shame, or I'm judging myself. hands to heart for a moment, just to offer, this is a hard situation. Okay. Now guilt is about the behavior. I didn't like the way I handled that. I'm not okay with the way I handled that. And that's it. That's the behavior. Shame is, I am a terrible mom. And that is a big, I always get goosebumps when I say that because it's so chilling and powerful, but we say that to ourselves. But just because you lost your temper and yelled does not make you a bad mom. You maybe acted in an unhelpful, unskilled way. So coming back to making it about the behavior, which is guilt, and not the shame, which is about who we are as a person. Then, because if we get stuck in the shame, like I said, that just keeps perpetuating. If I'm walking around feeling like I'm a bad mom, well, guess what? I'm going to start acting like that too, or it's going to come out in those ways. It keeps us stuck in the shame cycle. Guilt is, okay, I did not handle that the way I wanted to. How do I do that better next time? How can I set up the conditions? How can I interrupt that cycle of yelling next time when it shows up? It's a learning process, and it's saying, I'm a human being with these reactions, and how can I learn from this and do better next time? And then forgiving ourselves and letting it go, which is hard. But, I will try better next time, and I really mean that. And of course, if we need to go make a repair with our child or whatever the situation, if that's warranted. And sometimes it's also, zooming out, getting some perspective to say, is this really going to matter a year from now? Is this really, because it can feel so huge in that moment and so dire. And often if we say, a year from now, I'm not even going to remember this happened, that helps sort of put it in perspective too.
Oh my goodness. I just find it interesting because all of us moms have had a quote bad day where we've done something and we put ourselves through that ringer. And looking outside, we always tell our friends, oh, you know what? You are a great mom. You had a bad day, move on. But when it's to ourselves, it's like, no, I'm going to sit in this for weeks,
Yes.
hold on. It's like, we can't let go that we had a bad day.
Yes.
So one comes up, we just kind of like hold on to them even more. So, and you touched on the forgiveness, letting it go. When people keep holding it on, how can they easily kind of let go of those things? Because
sorry, I lost your audio for 1 sec. So just repeat what you said.
Okay, you're fine. You're fine. How can we learn to easily let go? Because we know we're going to have another bad day. It's not that I'm going to be perfect mom all the time, but something else. I might not do that scenario, but I might like flip out about something, or I might say something mean to myself again. How can we just learn to easily let go when things come up instead of keep holding on to them?
Right. Well, I'm not sure about easy.
Okay.
It's a practice.
Yes.
It's a practice, but I think, recognizing that it is hard to let it go. So it's not like I can flip a switch and it's gone. That sort of sticks around, that feeling. And it's like, but can I be really kind to myself? Can I talk to myself the way I might talk to my friend? And, even if it feels a little artificial, do it. Talk to yourself that way. I'm a huge believer in good enough parenting because I think our expectations are just ridiculous, including mine. And I've really worked really hard over 20 years of parenting to really be okay with good enough parenting most of the time. Because what I've seen, I have the benefit of having an almost 20-year-old who's like turned out okay so far for the most part. So, it didn't matter that I fed her hot dogs and put her in front of TV one day, that I never thought I would do that in my entire life, before I became a parent, sort of thing, or that I did yell at her, and upset her, whatever that is. She's okay, because for the most part, it's been good enough. And also coming maybe full circle to our conversation about mindful empowerment for women, why I'm so passionate about it is because we are going to be the best moms if we are putting our own oxygen masks on first. If we're feeling fulfilled, if we have purpose outside of motherhood, even if it's gardening, if it's exercising, if it's reading, whatever it is, or it's your work, to me, it makes us so much happier. It makes us more engaged. We come back to when we are with our kids and we are happy to be there, because, that's where I think that martyrdom comes in, where we feel like we need to be with them 24/7. really be all in it. And that's okay for some women, but for the most of us, it's not. And we feel like there's something wrong with us, that we don't want to be on the floor playing Legos for 3 hours at a stretch or something, you know? And so I'm a huge proponent of that.
No, I love the fact that you're telling and teaching women to find their own passions, because that was me for years. I would feel guilty that I didn't love playing Barbies with all three of my girls. I'm like, I can't play that anymore. I love that you play it, but makes me want to literally like scratch my eyes. Like, no.
Yes.
Feel bad
Yes.
every day for not. So having moms know that they can have boundaries and not feel bad about it, like, because they will show up better if they do have the boundaries, you know? So
That's right. That's right. And find those things you do like to do with your kids. Yeah.
And focus on those. I love how you've really touched on okay, so you didn't have a good day here, but think about the millions of other days that were great. Focusing on the great days, not necessarily the bad ones, is what you're saying here, as well as in parenting, so yeah.
Completely. Yes. And I always talk about that, how even for myself, I could be like, juggling 1,000 different balls, and I dropped the one that's like, I can't believe I forgot to, I didn't send in the permission slip for whatever for this child. And it's like, how could I? Oh my God. Well, because I did 999 other things. Well, I forgot one. Can I put that in perspective? And again, forgive myself and just, but it isn't easy, but it is a practice.
Now, as we circle back to that mindfulness, have you noticed that as you become more active in the meditation, the daily, that you are more focused, present in the moment in motherhood? Because that's one thing that I think moms struggle with, is we're always thinking about, oh, how did yesterday go? And I've got to worry about tomorrow, instead of right now, book time or homework time or whatever. As we work on that practice, have you noticed people being able to do present time consciousness better?
Of course, absolutely. Yes, I think you will be amazed. And I say that to everybody. Give it a try every day for 2 weeks. And again, the caveat being, especially if we are strivers and kind of really hard on ourselves, that a meditation isn't going to be perfect. It's what it just sit down and do it, and you're doing it for a reason. You have goals, but trying to just let how it feels, let that go and just do the practice. But after a couple of weeks, you are going to start to notice that you are going to be able to drop in and be more present in the moment. And when we're calmer too, it just lays this foundation of being more calm in our bodies physiologically. We know we can think more clearly in our brains when we're not under that low level fight or flight that we kind of run on all the time. And when we're calmer and we're less stressed, we are more fun, we're more playful, we are able to think on our feet more, because I know I'm not very funny or fun at all when I'm stressed out. Yes. It's not fun to be around me at all. So, again, this is about us taking care of ourselves so we can then be the moms we want to be for our families, but also be able to hang on to who we are as women too, and model that for our kids.
I love that. I love that. Tell us, where are you? So moms, Shonda is giving that meditation, that free meditation, and I'll put the link below. You just click right on it, put your email in, and you'll get it sent to you directly. So tell us where they can find you, where they can find your book, all of your greatness. Yeah.
Right. So my website is Shonda Morales, and it's Morales, MORALIS.net. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and trying to think what else they would need to know. So sign up for my email. My books are sold anywhere books are sold. And I'm starting in August a new group coaching course called Breathe Mama Breathe Revolution, which is a lot of what we're talking about here, really staying in touch and getting in touch with who we are outside of motherhood, and reclaiming our time, our energy, and our purpose so we can be the best we can be for our families.
I love it. It sounds like you need to get on her email list. You need to follow her, because we all need more of that mindfulness in motherhood. So thank you so much for sharing this, Shonda. It was excellent.
Oh, thanks. It's been fun to talk with you, Jessica.
All righty. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Just Own You Summit.